Boyfriend picked up my drunk best friend, now she's claiming they hooked up, and I'm stuck between betrayal and disbelief. I've been best friends with Becca since 2010. We were college roommates and then after we graduated we still lived together up until I moved in with my boyfriend Nate in 2019. One thing about Becca is that she's always had a drinking problem for as long as I've known her, and she's done stuff while drunk that has sometimes caused problems in our friendship. She does try to stay sober, but every few years something will happen to make her start drinking again, which is what happened earlier this summer. So last Saturday Becca called me because she was drunk somewhere and needed a ride home. I couldn't go pick her up because I had the flu and I was on cold medicine, so Nate went to get her instead. A couple of days after that I started noticing that Nate was being weird with his phone. Normally he leaves it out on the coffee table if we're watching TV or whatever, but he started putting it face down so I couldn't see what notifications he was getting. My first thought was that he was trying to plan a surprise, and because of the timing I thought that maybe Becca was helping him. Yesterday I saw Becca. I told her that Nate was being sneaky all of a sudden and asked her if he said anything about maybe proposing soon. She asked me if I looked through his phone and I said no. Becca started crying and told me that she and Nate hooked up in his car the night that he came to pick her up. Her excuse was that she was really drunk and didn't fully know what she was doing. She said she'd been texting him since, telling him that he needed to tell me what happened or else she was going to. I asked Becca to show me the texts, but they were all in the app Signal, which deletes messages after a day, so all I could see was that she and Nate had a chat thread but nothing that they said. I told her to text Nate in front of me so I could see what he said and she did, but we got no read receipt and so no response at all, so it didn't prove anything. I asked Becca if she was sure she wasn't so drunk that she maybe imagined it or thought a dream was real, and she absolutely lost her shit on me and said that she knows that she's horrible when she drinks but that she's not fucking delusional and she doesn't make shit up. She said that I could believe her or not and it's my choice, but she was telling me the truth. I said I needed to go home and talk to Nate. So when I got home I confronted Nate with what Becca had said, and he acted shocked and denied that anything like that had happened at all and said he didn't know why she'd think so or say so. He said that he had just given Becca a ride home and the only thing that happened was that they talked about how he and I had been together for a long time and how we should get married already. He admitted they were talking on Signal the next couple of days, but he said that it was about exactly what I thought, that he was asking her about engagement rings and what kind of proposal I would want. Nate replied to Becca's message from before asking her if she made up a story about them hooking up to not ruin the surprise about his proposal, and she texted him back that there was no proposal and to stop playing dumb. So then Nate called her pretending like I wasn't in the room and told her that she needed to stop whatever she was trying to do because we were on the verge of breaking up and he'd rather just have the surprise be ruined, but Becca just kept telling Nate to stop lying until he got angry and hung up on her. I really didn't know what to think and I still don't. Right now Nate is really upset and not really talking to me much. He says that it's bad enough that Becca acted insane and ruined his plan to propose, but it's even worse that I believed her lies even a little and would think that he would ever cheat on me. Becca texted me saying she was sorry, but otherwise I haven't talked to her either. I don't want to think that Nate would cheat on me or that he'd take advantage of Becca if she was that drunk, but I feel like I can't be 100% sure because I've known Becca for 13 years and I also just can't believe that she'd lie to me about something this important. And I know that she does have a drinking problem, so I can believe that she'd sleep with my boyfriend if she was drunk out of her head. She's done some pretty awful things in the past when she's been drunk. I don't want to wrongly accuse Nate of something he didn't do, but I don't want to be an idiot. I don't know what my gut says. It both says that Nate wouldn't do this and that Becca wouldn't lie about it, but obviously both of those things can't be true. I think you're right. In the past I've forgiven her because I've tried to be sympathetic to the fact that you can't control alcoholism, but I can't keep doing this. So in the past when she's been drunk, Becca's blacked out and started fights with me or other people. She'll say really out of line insulting things. She's kicked people out of our apartment because she didn't remember inviting them in. She's accused me of stealing clothes from her because I was wearing an outfit that looked like something that she also owned, that kind of thing. She's never hooked up with anyone that I was dating, but she's definitely hooked up with guys that she knew I was interested in. I don't know. I really don't think that Nate would cheat, but I just can't imagine that Becca would completely make this up. Both of their stories somewhat make sense to me, but I don't know. I don't know why Becca would be saying this if it wasn't true, but I'm afraid of deciding I definitely believe her and then having her later realize she forgot she hooked up with somebody else that night or something. If he's telling the truth, it's because it's only after that night that he started planning a proposal. From what he said, he didn't start planning the proposal that night. It was that Becca mentioned that we should get married already because it's been 7 years and he thought about it, and then the next day he sent her a message to ask her what kind of ring I would want. I've never noticed anything weird from Nate towards Becca. If anything, he doesn't like her very much. I don't know if envious is the right word, but in the past Becca didn't like me and Nate being together because she felt like I was abandoning her for him. I'm not sure how long he was gone. I fell asleep when he was gone and he didn't wake me up when he got back. But I know he didn't shower when he got home because that definitely would have woken me up. Update 1. So on Thursday night after I got everyone's advice, I told Nate that I had found out a way to recover deleted messages from Signal. He immediately took out his phone and opened the app and asked me to show him how to do it, so I already thought that must mean he was telling me the truth because he didn't panic or hesitate at all. Which was good because when I tried to download Signal on my old phone it turned out that it's too old to support the current version of the app, so it wouldn't work. Nate then asked me if we were going to have to go out and buy a new phone for me to believe that he was telling me the truth, and he said that he was willing to do it if that's what it would take. I told Nate it wasn't that I didn't believe him, I just wanted to have some proof because I just couldn't understand why Becca would lie about it. Nate said that she would lie about it because she's a fucking crazy drunk bitch and there's literally no way for a non-crazy person to understand why she would do anything, and once the messages proved that he did never want me talking to her again. Then he said to get up because if we were going to go to the Verizon store we had to get there before it closed. By then I completely believed Nate anyway, so I told him we didn't have to go anywhere or get a new phone and that I believed him and I knew he didn't cheat on me and that he would never do that. Nate said that he would hope I know that and that he didn't understand why I didn't take his word for it in the first place. I started trying to explain why I didn't want to just immediately dismiss what Becca had said happened, but Nate said that he really couldn't listen to that right now. I said that was fair and agreed that I would cut Becca off, but that first I wanted to try to get her to admit that nothing happened. Nate said fine, but to call her with my phone on speaker because he thought he also deserved to hear her admit that she was lying. So I called Becca and I said the same thing to her that I said to Nate, that I figured out how to recover deleted messages on Signal. She asked me why I would need to do that, so that was when I knew for sure that she was definitely making it up and not just confused somehow. I said it was because I wanted to have proof of what she and Nate talked about. Becca asked me if I saw their messages, so I lied and said yes. After that Becca just went silent until finally I asked her if she was going to say anything. Then she asked me if that meant that we were engaged now. So then I really just lost it on her and screamed at her asking her if she was fucking serious and what the fuck was wrong with her and how could that possibly be all that she had to say. Becca started screaming back telling me to fucking calm down and about how obviously I never believed her anyway because it's not like we broke up over it. I was crying by that point and because of that I couldn't really say anything else, so then Nate told Becca to go fuck herself and to never ever contact either one of us ever again and hung up on her. A minute later Becca sent me a completely unhinged text that I'm quoting here verbatim, apart from changed names. Courtney. You are supposed to be my friend for life. You are supposed to be their foe, are me. You are supposed to be my person. But then you meet Nate and now you only care about Nate. Everything is about Nate. Tell me why Nate comes to pick me up when I call you? I called you not your precious fucking Nate. I only want you to see how fucked up this is, but do you? No. Of course you don't. Of course you choose Nate over me like you always do and like you always will. You pretend to care about me but I can see you don't care. It is pathetic, Courtney. You are a pathetic woman who would choose a man over a friend. But since you can't say it yourself I will. Since you have to have your sweet perfect little baby Nate do it for you I will. Goodbye, Courtney. Is that what you want? Goodbye forever. I hope you fucking got what you fucking want. There were the 3 dots after that showing she was still typing more, but I blocked her before she sent it. I don't care about anything else that she has to say, I'm sure it's all just going to be more bullshit about why this is my fault or justifications about why what she did wasn't that bad and I should forgive her. I know Nate is probably right and there's no non-crazy logic behind why Becca would stoop to doing something like this, but obviously I've still been thinking about it and my best guess is that whoever said that Becca still blames me and Nate, apparently mostly Nate, for her being a drunk mess who can't get her life together is right. It seems like she somehow thought that if she said she hooked up with Nate, I'd break up with him but still want to be friends with her and then everything would magically be fixed. As far as stuff with Nate, I asked him if he thought he could ever forgive me for doubting him and he said that since I came to my senses and I cut Becca off he guesses we can try to put it behind us. I don't think he's still going to propose anytime soon. After this I probably wouldn't if I was him. And from what Nate said he didn't actually do any planning yet other than asking Becca about rings and if I'd think a public proposal was tacky or not. All he was doing so far was trying to get ideas without me knowing he was talking to her about it. So just based on that I think probably it's not going to happen for a while if it still does at all. Also, thanks to everyone for the advice and support. I know I didn't respond to many comments but I really did appreciate everyone who cared enough to want to help. Oop, I'm sure she won't just go away. I'm already expecting her to try to get our other friends to get in the middle of everything as soon as she figures out she's actually blocked and I'm not just ignoring her. I hope she won't try to do anything else but I guess at this point I really can't know with her. Update 2. I'll keep it as short as I can. Unfortunately I have nothing good to report. It turned out that whatever was going on with Becca that caused her to make false accusations about Nate was the beginning of some kind of a psychotic break. After I blocked her she made a whole bunch of fake accounts and started sending me completely unhinged shit about how I ruined her life and threatening to get revenge on me and Nate. This went on for literally months with her sending me dozens of messages a day. I found out from other friends that she was making multiple posts on Facebook every day that were semi-coherent rants about how much she hated me and how I was evil and ruined her life intentionally. I tried to talk to the police 2 different times to get a restraining order because I was afraid that Becca was going to show up at our apartment and attack me or Nate. I literally even got a front door camera because I was so scared that she was going to hurt us. The police said that because Becca wasn't threatening actual violence she was just a nuisance and they couldn't do anything. They acted like I was an idiot because it isn't illegal to talk shit on Facebook and they basically told me to just keep blocking her whenever she made a new account. And eventually she'd get bored and move on. Then finally there was an incident where someone broke the windshield of Nate's car while he was parked at his work. I guess it could have just been a random act of vandalism because his wasn't the only car that got windows broken, but at the time I was 100% sure it was Becca, so I went to the police again. Eventually an officer went to talk to Becca, and she said she didn't touch Nate's car, and again I have no proof that she did. But after the police talked to her, Becca got put into a psych ward for a week because apparently her apartment was filthy and she was drunk out of her mind 24/7 and a danger to herself. I have not heard anything from Becca after she left the psych ward. I don't know if she was diagnosed with something or if she's medicated now or what. I found out that she moved in with her dad, who thank God lives in a different state. I look at her social media every so often to make sure she's not posting about me again and that she's nowhere around me. I haven't mentioned Nate much in this update because we're no longer together. He broke up with me after the windshield incident because he couldn't handle being constantly harassed by Becca, and to be honest I don't think he ever forgave me for not taking his side immediately when everything started. It really hurt, but I can't blame him. I tried to talk to him about fixing things between us after Becca was gone, but he just wasn't interested. So in the past when she's been drunk, Becca's blacked out and started fights with me or other people. She'll say really out of line insulting things. She's kicked people out of our apartment because she didn't remember inviting them in. She's accused me of stealing clothes from her because I was wearing an outfit that looked like something that she also owned, that kind of thing. She's never hooked up with anyone that I was dating, but she's definitely hooked up with guys that she knew I was interested in. Now on to second story. Sister undermined my life choices and insulted my husband during Thanksgiving, so he finally retaliated, leaving my family divided. I am the youngest of 7 kids. The problem I have is with the eldest sibling, my sister Mary. Mary has always undermined and judged my choices growing up. For example, when I wanted to take a gap year after high school to save money for university, Mary told me it was a bad idea and that once I took a gap year, I'd never go back, just like her. I almost didn't go through with it because she made me second guess myself. Then, after the gap year, I changed my major after the first semester, and she yelled at me for hours about how I was going to ruin my life and waste all my money since I couldn't make up my mind. I have countless examples of times she made me cry from her yelling or made me question my decisions. And at the time, I felt compelled to listen to her. After meeting my husband, then boyfriend, and getting a therapist, they both helped me realize I needed to distance myself from Mary because she's extremely toxic and both emotionally and verbally abusive. It took a lot of effort, but I finally went no contact with her. I finished university, got a job in my chosen field, thanks to my brother-in-law, moved in with my husband, and eventually got married. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly happy. I still see Mary during family events and holidays. I hate seeing her, but it's my family too, and I don't want to miss out because of her. However, she always finds a way to ruin the holiday for me. She often takes digs at my husband, saying she doesn't like him and that I could do better. My husband usually tells me to ignore her because he thinks she's only doing it for a reaction. Last weekend, we had our Thanksgiving celebration at my mom's house. When we arrived, my husband asked my mom if we could host Christmas at our place since her house is getting too small to fit everyone. Before my mom could respo, ND, Mary jumped in, saying we shouldn't offer a home we didn't buy, and then called my husband a fucking nepotism baby. That comment made me mad because she knows nothing about my husband's situation. My husband inherited our home from his grandfather after he passed away, so her saying that was incredibly insensitive. Both my mom and I told her off, and she quieted down for a bit. But during dinner, my brother asked me how work was going, and Mary chimed in again, claiming I probably don't work since my husband is rich. I corrected her, explaining that we're not rich and that I work as a preschool teacher and she knows this. Standing up for myself seemed to completely set her off. She yelled at me, saying I was only working there because I couldn't handle the other program I was in and that she knows I'm not happy with my temporary job and I should be pursuing a more serious career. Mary kept yelling, tearing into my life choices. I got anxious and nervous, as I always do when she yells. It brings back the trauma she caused me. I tried to defend myself but started stuttering, which made her escalate. My mom and siblings tried to get her to stop, but she wouldn't. Then she said something that hurt the most. She called me a disappointment and claimed my mom felt the same way. At that point, my husband lost it. He started yelling at her, which is rare for him since he's usually very calm. He swore at her and called her some names, including a fat bitch and a cunt. He also called her evil and said no one in the family liked her. It turned into a screaming match. My mom tried to calm Mary down, and my husband, but neither of them would stop. My husband and I ended up leaving and going back to the Airbnb we were staying at. The next day, we went back to my mom's house. My husband apologized to my mom for yelling and ruining dinner but said he wouldn't apologize to Mary. Since then, my mom has been calling me, asking me to get my husband to apologize too. Keep the peace. Mary still lives with her, and my mom is tired of her ranting about how rude my husband was and cursing him out. But I told my mom I'm not going to make him apologize. I know he was rude, and some of the things he said were harsh. But Mary was always rude, and no one is telling her to apologize to us. Update 1. My husband also wanted me to pass along his thanks as well for standing up for me. I showed him this post, and he feels vindicated, his words, not mine. He truly is such a wonderful man, and I'm very lucky to have him. I responded to some comments, but I wanted to make a larger post to address the things I saw mentioned the most. I called my mom today and told her that my husband will definitely not be apologizing to Mary. He did apologize to the rest of the family for the scene, though. I feel bad for my mom, but making the original post gave me the courage I needed to tell her this. I don't like seeing her stressed, but I need to protect my husband just like he always protects me. My husband read a couple of comments suggesting he could apologize for the language he used. He offered to do that, but I told him it wasn't necessary since Mary would never return the apology for what she said. My mom said she understood and promised not to bring it up again. I also told her, for her own sake, to ignore Mary if she starts ranting about it again. I saw a lot of comments about cutting off my mom or going low contact with her, also a lot that were bashing her. I want to say up front that I'm not going to do that, nor do I appreciate those rude comments. I agree that my mom has enabled some of Mary's behavior, but she's not a bad mom. She has always tried to control Mary, but Mary doesn't listen to anyone. My mom raised 7 kids on her own. Our dad died when I was 2, and Mary was 14. It's impossible to pay attention to everything with so many kids, and I don't blame my mom for not being able to stop the abuse when it started. I didn't even care. Now it was abuse when I was a kid. I thought that's just how older sisters are supposed to be. My mom worked a lot to support us when we were kids, and unfortunately for all of us this meant that Mary was forced to take on a parental role. And since I was the youngest, it made her both become very attached and resentful towards me. Words from my therapist. My mom has made mistakes, but so has every parent, and I'm not going to hold a grudge against the only parent I know. However, I think having a serious conversation with her would be a good idea. I might even bring her to a therapy session so we can talk about everything Mary put me through. I haven't talked to her about it much, and what my mom knows is just the tip of the iceberg. She really does try her best to parent us, she always has, but Mary is too much for everyone. Many people asked why Mary still lives at home. I mentioned this in a comment, but Mary has a chronic pain disease that forces her to take a lot of time off work. I also think it's another reason why she is so mean. I won't go into details, but she does have a job, but she can't afford to live on her own. None of my siblings are willing to take her in, and most of them are low contact with her since she treats us all the same. My mom isn't the kind of person to turn her back on her kids, so she lets Mary stay. I also think she does this as a way of making it up to Mary for relying on her so much for child care. Some comments asked if Mary was abusing my mom. I want to clarify that this isn't the case. For everything Mary has done, she's never put her hands on anyone. While she does fight like this with my mom sometimes, she treats her much better than the rest of us. The worst thing she does is use my mom as her personal therapist. Mary is absolutely not coming to Christmas. I was never planning to invite her, and my husband would never allow her within 20 feet of our home. She will throw a fit, but we don't care. I love the holidays, and I'd like to spend them with people who actually care about me. I also think it's a good idea to take your advice to avoid family gatherings if Mary is present. That will be hard because I don't want to miss time with the rest of my family, but I'll just make plans with them individually. Once again, thank you to everyone who commented. You've given me a lot to think about, and I'm planning to share some of your comments with my therapist to work through them. Some of them hit me hard, and I need time to unpack everything.